October 2023. Israel. Iron Dome battery positioned near Tel Aviv detects incoming rockets. 4 threats, all approaching from different vectors. The battery calculates intercept solutions and prepares to fire. Traditional response: fire interceptors at all 4 threats. 8 missiles minimum, 2 per target. Hope you get them all before reloads are needed. This battery doesn't fire at all 4. 300 meters away, a second Iron Dome battery has different perspective angles on the same threats. 2 miles east, a third battery sees one threat the first battery missed entirely. And in the fraction of a second it takes human operators to process this, the batteries have already communicated, distributed targets, and optimized the engagement without anyone telling them to. Battery 1 fires at 2 threats. Battery 2 engages the third. Battery 3 handles the fourth and the hidden fifth. Total interceptors launched, 7 instead of 12. Every threat destroyed. Magazine depth. Preserved for the next wave that's already forming 40 miles away. This isn't coordination, this is autonomous networking. Missile batteries that detect each other, establish communications, share sensor data, and distribute targets faster than human decision cycles allow. And the reason it's deadly has nothing to do with better missiles. It's about turning isolated weapon systems into a distributed intelligence network where every sensor feeds every launcher, where gaps in coverage disappear, and where adversaries face defenses that think collectively instead of individually. Let me show you why networked missile defense changes everything, how batteries coordinate autonomously without human intervention, and why attacking systems that think as one is exponentially harder than attacking systems that think alone. The problem is isolation. Traditional missile batteries operate independently. Each has its own radar, its own launchers, its own fire control. If a threat appears, that battery engages based solely on what its sensors detect. That works until you consider the limitations. Radar has horizons determined by curvature of the earth and terrain. A battery positioned behind a hill might not see threats approaching from certain directions. Another battery 5 miles away has clear line of sight to those same threats, but doesn't know the first battery needs help, or both batteries detect the same target. Without coordination, both fire interceptors. That's redundancy in the worst way. 2 batteries expend 4 missiles, killing 1 threat when 2 missiles would have sufficed. The wasted interceptors aren't available for the next attack, or threats arrive from multiple directions simultaneously. 1 battery faces 8 incoming missiles. It fires 16 interceptors and exhausts its magazine. 3 miles away, another battery sits idle because its radar doesn't see the threats. The engaged battery runs out of missiles. The idle battery has full magazines but isn't shooting. Isolation means inefficiency. Inefficiency means wasted interceptors. And wasted interceptors mean you run out of ammunition before enemies run out of targets. The traditional solution was human coordination. Operators communicate via radio. Battery Alpha has 4 contacts, engaging 2. Battery Bravo confirms will engage remaining 2. That works if you have time. Modern threats don't give you time. Ballistic missiles travel at Mach 5 plus. Rocket artillery impacts in seconds. Cruise missiles approach at 500 miles per hour from multiple vectors. By the time humans coordinate, the threats have already arrived. You need systems that coordinate faster than humans can think. Systems that share data at electronic speeds. Systems that distribute targets algorithmically based on engagement geometry, magazine depth, and optimal intercept solutions. You need networks that establish themselves autonomously without human configuration. The Integrated Battle Command System, IBCS, represents the most advanced realization of this concept. Developed by Northrop Grumman for the United States Army, it's not a weapon. It's the brain connecting weapons that previously operated independently. IBCS allows any sensor to talk to any launcher. A Patriot radar detects an incoming ballistic missile. IBCS transmits that track to a THAAD battery 20 miles away. The THAAD battery has better engagement geometry for this particular threat. It fires while the Patriot battery conserves ammunition for threats the THAAD can't handle. Neither battery needed human authorization to coordinate. The system recognized which launcher had optimal engagement parameters and made the decision autonomously in milliseconds. The architecture is agnostic. It doesn't care what type of radar, launcher, or missile is involved. Sentinel radar, Patriot radar, LTAMDS all feed data into IBCS. Patriot launchers, THAAD launchers, future systems all receive engagement commands from IBCS. You can mix and match components. Old radars with new launchers, new sensors with legacy missiles. Everything talks to everything through standardized protocols. That interoperability transforms how air defense deploys. Instead of homogeneous batteries where every component comes from one manufacturer, you can optimize, position the best radar for detection, place launchers based on terrain and threat axis. Let IBCS connect them regardless of manufacturer or technology generation. The 2021 test demonstrated this perfectly. IBCS integrated 6 different sensor types and 3 different launcher types, then engaged multiple simultaneous threats, including cruise missiles, drones, and ballistic missiles. Every threat was destroyed using optimal sensor-shooter pairings that no single battery could have achieved alone. A Sentinel radar detected a cruise missile at maximum range. IBCS calculated that a Patriot battery positioned 15 miles from the radar had ideal intercept geometry. The battery fired based purely on Sentinel data, never using its own radar. The cruise missile was destroyed 60 miles from defended assets. Simultaneously, a different sensor detected a ballistic missile. IBCS determined the same Patriot battery was poorly positioned for ballistic missile intercept, but a nearby THAAD battery had perfect geometry. THAAD engaged and killed the ballistic missile. 2 threats, different sensor types, different launcher types, perfect coordination, 0 human intervention beyond the initial authorization to engage threats autonomously. That's the revolution. Not better missiles or better radar, better integration. Israel's Iron Dome employs similar networking, but optimized for different threat profiles. Each battery can detect and engage threats independently, but when multiple batteries operate in proximity, they establish a network defense automatically. The batteries communicate via encrypted data links. Threat tracks detected by one battery transmit to others within. Network range. Fire control systems compare data from multiple perspectives, generating more accurate trajectory predictions than any single radar could achieve. Here's where it gets tactically devastating. Different radars observing the same threat from different angles provide triangulation data that dramatically improves accuracy. One radar might see a rocket's azimuth clearly, but struggle with elevation due to viewing angle. Another radar from a different position has perfect elevation data, but marginal azimuth. The network combines both perspectives. The resulting track is more precise than either radar alone could produce. That precision reduces the number of interceptors needed per threat because engagement solutions are more accurate. But the real advantage is target distribution. When threats arrive simultaneously from multiple directions, the network algorithmically assigns targets to batteries based on engagement geometry, magazine status, and intercept probability. A rocket approaches from the north. 2 batteries can engage, but battery 1 has better angle and 3 more seconds of engagement time before the threat enters the defended zone. Battery 1 fires. Battery 2 holds, ready for the next threat or as backup if battery 1's interceptor misses. Another rocket approaches from the south. Battery 1 is reloading. Battery 3 has clear line of sight and full magazines. Battery 3 engages automatically. The network made that decision in milliseconds based on current system status. The result is optimal resource allocation. Every interceptor fired has purpose. No redundant shots. No wasted ammunition. Maximum defensive efficiency against saturation attacks designed to overwhelm isolated batteries. During the October 2023 attacks, Iron Dome batteries operated in dense networks around population centers. Hamas fired barrages of 100-plus rockets designed to saturate defenses through sheer volume. Isolated batteries would have struggled. Each battery can engage 10 to 20 targets before requiring reload. Launch 100 rockets at 5 isolated batteries, and some rockets inevitably penetrate because individual batteries become overwhelmed. But networked batteries distributed the engagement across all available launchers. The system calculated which battery had optimal geometry for each threat. Interceptors launched from the best positioned batteries, preserving magazines on others for subsequent waves. Interception rates exceeded 90% despite saturation tactics specifically designed to defeat air defense through volume. The network defeated volume through coordination. The autonomous threat prioritization is sophisticated. Not all threats are equal. A rocket targeting an empty field is lower priority than one targeting a city center. A ballistic missile carries larger warhead than rocket artillery. Cruise missiles are harder to intercept than drones. Networked systems evaluate threat characteristics, predicted impact points, and potential damage. They prioritize autonomously, engaging high-value threats first while deferring lower-priority threats if magazine depth is constrained. An Iron Dome network detects 15 rockets. 10 are targeting uninhabited areas. 5 are targeting Tel Aviv. The network prioritizes the 5 targeting populated areas. Those interceptors launch immediately. The other 10 rockets are engaged only if ammunition remains after securing high-priority targets. That triage is automatic. No human makes those calculations. The system evaluates predicted casualties, collateral damage, and strategic impact, then optimizes engagement accordingly. It's cold mathematics, but it's effective mathematics. When you can't intercept everything, intercepting the threats that matter most is the next best solution. The sensor fusion creates additional advantages. Multiple radars observing the same airspace detect threats earlier and maintain track continuity better than isolated radars. A low-flying cruise missile appears briefly above terrain, then descends behind a hill. A single radar loses track. The target disappears. Reacquisition takes time. In a network, multiple radars observe from different positions. When one loses track, another maintains it. The target never disappears from the network picture. Engagement solutions remain valid continuously. That track continuity is critical for fast-moving threats. Lose track for even 5 seconds and a supersonic missile travels a mile. Reacquisition might come too late for effective intercept. Continuous track through networked sensors eliminates that vulnerability. The electronic warfare resistance improves through networking. Jamming one radar degrades that radar's effectiveness. Jamming 10 networked radars is exponentially harder because they can operate on different frequencies and compare data to identify jamming signatures. If one radar reports strong returns that others don't see, the network recognizes those returns as probable jamming or false targets. The data is filtered out. Engagement solutions are calculated based on non-jammed sensors. The adversary would need to jam every radar in the network simultaneously across multiple frequency bands. That's technically difficult and resource-intensive. Most jamming attempts fail because network defenses have redundant sensors immune to single-point jamming. The geographic coverage expands through networking. A single Patriot battery covers perhaps 40 square miles depending on terrain. 5 networked batteries don't cover 200 square miles. They cover 300-plus square miles because overlapping coverage creates redundancy that extends effective range. Threats at the edge of one battery's range are well within range of the next battery. The defended area grows non-linearly as batteries add to the network, and there are no coverage gaps. Terrain that blocks one radar is visible to another. Low-altitude threats hidden from elevated radars are detected by ground-level sensors. High-altitude threats obscured by weather to optical sensors are tracked by radar. Every angle is covered, every altitude, every approach vector. The network sees everything because collective sensors eliminate blind spots individual systems inevitably have. The logistics become more efficient too. Isolated batteries must maintain full magazines because they're defending alone. If they expend ammunition, their coverage disappears until reload. Network batteries can accept lower individual magazine depth because they share the defensive burden. One battery depletes its magazine, neighboring batteries cover that sector while it reloads. The network never loses coverage even as individual nodes reload. That rotation means sustained operations. Instead of all batteries reloading simultaneously and creating temporary gaps, they reload sequentially. The network maintains constant defensive readiness. The cost implications favor networking significantly. Building more independent batteries is expensive. Each needs its own radar, command post, power generation, communications. Redundancy is necessary but costly. Networking reduces redundancy requirements. You don't need 5 complete systems. You need 5 launchers and maybe 3 radars. IBCS connects them into a coherent defense that performs like 5 complete systems at 3/5 the cost. And when components fail or require maintenance, the network adapts. A radar goes offline, other radars compensate. A launcher breaks, remaining launchers cover its sector. Degradation is graceful rather than catastrophic. Compare that to isolated batteries where any component failure means the entire battery is degraded. Networking provides resilience through redundancy without the expense of complete system duplication. The international adoption is accelerating. Poland is procuring IBCS as the backbone of its air defense modernization. Germany is evaluating similar architecture for integrating Patriot and Iris-T systems. Japan is developing networked integration for its layered air defenses. Every nation facing sophisticated air threats recognizes that isolated batteries are vulnerable to saturation, coordination, and exploitation of coverage gaps. Networking solves all 3 problems simultaneously. South Korea operates one of the most advanced networked air defense systems globally, integrating Patriot batteries, indigenous KM-SAM systems, and Cheonggung medium-range SAMs into a unified network covering approaches from North Korea. The system automatically distributes targets across launchers based on real-time assessments. North Korean artillery rockets are engaged by short-range systems, ballistic missiles by Patriots, cruise missiles by whatever launcher has optimal geometry. The network makes those decisions faster than North Korea can coordinate attacks, and it optimizes resource allocation better than human operators managing isolated batteries could achieve. The training requirements shift dramatically. Operators no longer manage individual batteries in isolation. They monitor network status, validate engagement decisions, and intervene only when automated systems request authorization or encounter scenarios outside program parameters. The skill set changes from tactical engagement coordination to network management, understanding how sensor fusion works, recognizing when automated target distribution is suboptimal, knowing when to override autonomous decisions. It's less about operating a weapon and more about supervising an intelligent system that operates weapons on your behalf. The human role becomes oversight and exception handling rather than direct control. Some operators resist this. Traditional air defense emphasized hands-on engagement control. Networked systems feel like loss of authority, but results drive acceptance. When network defenses consistently outperform isolated batteries, resistance fades. The vulnerability is centralization. IBCS and similar systems create single points of failure. Destroy the network node, and integrated defense collapses into isolated batteries operating independently. Adversaries recognize this. Targeting command and control nodes becomes priority. Electronic warfare focuses on disrupting network communications. Cyber attacks aim to corrupt data sharing or inject false targets. The counter is redundancy and resilience. IBCS nodes are mobile and hardened. Communications use frequency hopping encrypted data links resistant to jamming. Cyber defenses protect against intrusion, and the network degrades gracefully. Lose one node and others maintain coordination. Even if networking fails completely, batteries retain autonomous capability. They revert to independent operation, degraded but functional. That fallback ensures defense continues even under worst-case scenarios. The future architecture is even more distributed. Current systems network batteries within geographic regions. Next generation systems will network across services and domains. Army Patriots network with Navy Aegis ships. Air Force early warning aircraft feed data to ground based launchers. Space based sensors provide targeting data to surface based interceptors. Everything connects into a multi domain network where any sensor can cue any shooter. An Aegis destroyer detects a ballistic missile heading toward land. It transmits track data to Army THAAD batteries positioned to defend the projected impact area. THAAD engages based purely on naval sensor data. The missile is destroyed before it enters terminal phase. That cross-service coordination happens autonomously at machine speed. No phone calls between commanders, no requests for support. The network recognizes Army assets are positioned to intercept Navy-detected threats and executes engagement automatically. The strategic implications are enormous. Adversaries planning air or missile attacks must account for network defenses that coordinate across platforms, services, and geographic areas. Identifying and targeting isolated batteries is useless when destroying one battery barely degrades network capability. Saturation attacks require overwhelming the entire network simultaneously, not individual batteries. That demands massively increased missile inventories or accepting that most launches will be intercepted. And deception becomes harder. Coordinating false targets across multiple sensors simultaneously is exponentially more difficult than spoofing one radar. The network cross-validates data, rejecting returns that don't correlate across independent sensors. China and Russia are developing similar capabilities. Their S-400 and HQ-9 systems feature networking that enables battery coordination. The technology proliferates because isolated batteries are obsolete against modern threats. The arms race shifts from building better individual systems to building better networks. Whoever integrates sensors and shooters most effectively wins, regardless of whether their components are technically superior. The missile battery that networks itself. With nearby units isn't one system, it's a philosophy of air defense where integration matters more than isolation, where collective intelligence defeats individual capability, and where cooperation between weapons platforms creates effectiveness far beyond what any platform achieves alone. When batteries detect each other and establish communications autonomously, when they share sensor data at electronic speeds, when they distribute targets algorithmically and coordinate engagements without human intervention, defense stops being about individual skill and becomes about system intelligence, and systems that think collectively are harder to defeat than systems that think individually, not because any component is invincible, but because destroying components doesn't destroy the system. You kill one battery, 4 others compensate. You jam one radar, 6 others maintain track. You saturate one sector, the entire network redistributes to cover it. That resilience through networking is why modern air defense is transforming from isolated weapons into integrated systems, and why adversaries facing networked defenses must account for threats that coordinate faster, see farther, and shoot smarter than any collection of isolated batteries could manage. The battery doesn't wait for orders to network. It doesn't ask permission to coordinate. It detects other batteries, establishes communications, and begins optimizing defensive coverage automatically. Because when missiles are incoming and seconds matter, waiting for humans to coordinate is waiting to die. The batteries that survive are the ones that think together faster than threats can arrive. And thinking together is what networking means. Not cooperation, integration, not coordination, fusion. Every sensor feeding every launcher, every threat visible to every system, every engagement optimized across the entire network. That's not air defense anymore. That's distributed intelligence applied to killing anything that flies where it shouldn't, and it's deadly precisely because it's not one thing. It's everything, everywhere, all coordinated, all the time. The strangest missile battery is the one that isn't alone, and isn't alone changes everything.